It's been a couple of months since I started playing the new Forza Motorsport game, and I'm deep enough into the single player campaign and free races that I feel I can give an honest review. Up front, I want to be clear and let everyone know that I've not done any multiplayer yet. I don't really enjoy racing multiplayer unless it is with people that I know, and so far, all of my friends who play games have avoided the new Forza Motorsport game. Some of the pros and cons I'm going to talk about may not be the same for multiplayer. I'll try to address that where I'm aware of the case, just so that it's clear, but mostly, almost entirely, I'm talking about single player here. So let's get into it. Okay, I do want to say welcome to my channel. This is the 311 Griffin YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys being here. Let's get started. I've been playing Forza Motorsport games since the first Forza. I spent a lot of time in Forza, and I beat the extensive career that was in Forza the first. And I still feel like that's one of the best overall racing games of all time. I completed Gran Turismo and Gran Turismo 2 back when I was in college, and those are great games as well. They were a little bit more challenging, I think, and Forza was a little bit easier to get into, but also had a bit of realism, so that's why I liked Forza a little bit better. I didn't do much racing between the first Forza and Forza 5, but I got Forza 5, played that quite a bit, played Forza 6 even more, and then played Forza 7 way more than Forza any of the other Forzas except for the first one. So at least for the single player careers, I feel fairly experienced with these games and how they've progressed. Forza 8 had a lot of potential, and it wasn't a bad game, but there are a lot of items that I hoped to see improved that were not improved. At the time that I'm recording this, Forza 8 is basically Forza 7 with penalties, less tracks, less money, and a car stable that's confusing in a different way than Forza 7 was. They are still working on Forza 8, and as time goes on, it will become more and more worth purchasing. Though if they don't fix the bad AI and the inability to get previous designs on PC, I'm not sure that I'm going to be very excited about any of their future updates. But let's get into some specifics. I'm going to talk about the bad stuff first because I just want to get it out of the way. There's a little bit more of it. It's going to sound pretty negative, but I don't necessarily mean it to be super negative, but let's just get the bad out of the way. The AI is bad. That's what I'm going to spend most of my time talking about. The AI is at least not improved over Forza 7. It looks to me to be almost identical AI. I don't know what the code is. I don't know what they've done specifically, but it's bad. It seems worse in some cases, but that might be an artificial feeling based on the penalties. When the AI gets out on the open road without any congestion, it is okay. At the start of the race, the AI is appalling. In fact, there's no English word I can think of to adequately describe how abysmal the AI behaves at race start and through the first few corners. Specifically, the AI will try to stick to the racing line even when it doesn't make sense to do so. They're trying to set specific lap times, and what winds up happening is that they'll sometimes smash into you, sometimes they'll smash into each other, sometimes they'll slide off the road wildly, sometimes they'll park on an apex, sometimes they'll take really weird lines that would require them to miss the corner, but they make it anyway. And sometimes they do all of the above. This is nothing new in Forza, but thanks to the penalty systems and the race scoring, it is more frustrating. If you drive perfectly and another car smashes into you, your score for that section will be capped at 1. And that's how you get your XP for your car for leveling up the car, so it kind of slows you down in that regard. Other cars can stop in front of you or just hit their brakes at weird times that don't make sense in a real race, and it slows you down. Or you may hit them, and if you hit them, you might get a penalty, you might not, it just depends. Other cars can hit you and knock you off the racing line, they can pit maneuver you and not get penalties. In short, you can have your race ruined in a number of ways. So the best bet in single player career mode is to just play bumper cars through the first few corners and accept what penalties you get, then race more realistically once you get towards the front. I wouldn't recommend that in multiplayer. I don't think that that's a good way to approach multiplayer. If you try to race more realistically from the start, avoiding contact and trying to drive correctly, you'll be too far back in the lineup once you get clear, and you just really don't have much chance of winning a race on medium to hard difficulty. But even in clearish air, the AI isn't great. When racing one-on-one with an AI car, it's very easy to force them to get stupid and then pass them, because they don't race like a real person who's good at racing. They don't defend corners. They will sometimes swerve at you, but they don't do it enough or at the right time to block. Plus, to my knowledge, there's no penalty in place for excessive blocking. The AI just tends to stick to the line, which means you can get inside their line, then push them out and make them exit the track, or more commonly, they'll just avoid you and then slow down because they're off the line and let you around. They may even come back onto the line or inside the line and then like smash into you going through the corner way too fast and offline, which isn't realistic at all. The programming for the AI isn't smart. It just takes a lot of shortcuts to try to give the illusion that they're good at racing by making them faster, allowing them to make corners they can't realistically make, and things of that nature. Now, to be fair, you can never make these bots race perfectly realistically in all situations, and the code has to have some shortcuts in it. I want to give Turn 10 some credit because the game can be a lot of fun, and I know they can't make it perfect. It's just that I was hoping for more improvements with the AI between 7 and 8. The next major problem is a quick one. On PC, you can't access your previous Forza game files. This is a huge problem for me because I spent thousands of hours making custom logos and car designs in Forza's 5, 6, and 7. I'm not too worried about my car designs because the cars update and I don't expect them to put a a Porsche 911 spec from 2 years ago design onto a new one. I'm mostly worried about my decals. And this should be an easy fix, either to make those files port over to PC or build an image import function or something like that. I think it would be easier just to make them port over correctly. But if I could import images, I have a lot of these decals on my computer already. But I just want the decals. I spent so much time in previous games, and I'm not going to remake them. It feels like thousands of hours wasted for no good reason. But Turn 10, you really need to fix this. Make it so that I can get my previous decals on PC. That's a huge problem for me. So next up, we're going to talk about car balancing. This has always been a little bit odd in games. And in some ways, Forza 8 is improved. There aren't any trucks or UTVs in the game, so that's a good thing. I was always annoyed in previous titles when we had to race trophy trucks on GP circuits. It just made no sense. But we do have some oddities in Forza Motorsport 8. And someone at Turn 10 just loves KTM. In Forza 7, there's a DLC GT4 Expo that kept getting put into GT3 level races, and it was like super fast. Now we've got a GT2 KTM Expo that's being put in with GT3 level cars that can't keep up with it. But probably a better example is the weird balancing in prototype and hybrid classes. Specifically, we've got a Jackie Chan DC Racing LMP2 car with the same rating as the Cadillac Hybrid and some of the other LMP1 cars. Then we've got older hybrid LMP1s that aren't part of the new hybrid class, and they've got much higher ratings. Some of them have the similar ratings to the LMP2 and the Cadillac Hybrid, but some of them are higher. It's just odd. Now I know Turn 10 is just trying to cover a number of classes that are similar in the real world, like DPI and LMP or GT3 versus GTE and stuff like that. They're slightly different, but they're similar. It's tough to do in the game, but it just winds up being odd. But that segues into some bigger issues. Where are all the cars? We have the 3 Cadillac hybrids. Where's the Peugeot, the Ferrari, the Porsche, the new Toyota hybrids from the 2023 WEC? We do have a Toyota hybrid, but I think it's an older one. Some of these may be added later, and hopefully not as DLC, but for right now, the car lineup just doesn't make sense in some cases. We have mostly a bunch of ported over cars from Forza Motorsport 7 and some older games, and and then a sprinkling of newer spec cars that aren't really on the same level. So speaking of missing things, what about the tracks? The track list is somewhat lacking in Forza Motorsport 8. They are adding some back, and I'm happy to see that, but the list is just not sufficient for a new generation of Forza Motorsport. I believe Turn 10 is committed to bringing back the full Nordschleife, so that's good. I'm hoping at some point to see Mount Panorama. They have added in Yas Marina and Hockenheim, so those are also good additions. I love that they've added in Kailami, so that's a plus. And I just love to see some other tracks like Fuji, Shanghai, Portimao, and Bahrain, as well as some of the old favorites like Road Atlanta and Monza. Some tracks may not be possible to add just because of contractual stuff, um, but it would be nice to see more tracks, some of our old favorites, and some better real tracks. The other thing I'll talk about that could be negative is that the single player career seems to be lacking, and they're adding and removing races from the career as time goes on, which is kind of weird. I'd prefer a sufficiently long career that is pretty stable and concrete. I appreciate that they're adding to it, but I much prefer the Forza Motorsport system. It's also much harder to earn money, so you may not be buying all of your favorite cars in Forza Motorsport 8 like you would in 7. So let's talk about some good stuff. It's on PC and it allows crossplay. Those are some huge steps in the right direction in gaming in general and for Forza specifically. I like the atmospheric effects and I love that there's some dynamic time and weather. Those are great additions to the game. Pit strategy is now a thing. This is huge. That was a long time coming for the Forza world. Being able to swap tires, not swap tires, set the tire compound, and pick how much fuel you take is huge. I'd like the ability to swap individual tires or left sides, right sides, fronts, backs. And I think for a number of reasons, the AI needs to take over and then pop the pit option window up pretty rapidly so that you have time to make your selections on tires and fuel. Um, so there's some improvements that we could have in this system, but it's a very welcome addition to Forza, and it makes endurance racing much cooler, where different strategies will play out in different ways. The penalty system is probably a good thing, especially in multiplayer where drivers should be respectful, realistic, and reasonable. In single player, it gets tangled up with the bad AI and can be a huge problem, but I think the penalty system is ultimately a great addition. It also allows the tracks to be more realistic without hard barriers to keep people from cutting the track. There are some new tracks, and besides Kailami, I'm not like really excited about the new tracks, so I wouldn't miss them if they left. But they do add some variation, and they don't suck. So that's good. I've also not run across any dumb variations of tracks that are super tiny and annoying, so that's good as well. Menus are mostly easy to work through. I have no complaints with the menus, and in a world where a lot of designers and developers are intentionally creating bad and confusing UX, I'll say that Forza 8 is doing a good job in that regard. The updated car upgrade system is a bit odd. I'm going to call this one a neutral. It isn't a bad idea necessarily. I usually like leveling up specific items in games, so it can be fun to try to drive a car a lot just to get it set up the way you want. It also doesn't cost the normal in-game currency, so you're not pulling out of your pool of cash to upgrade a car. However, it just feels less real. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I believe I'd prefer more racing wins, so more money, and the ability to purchase upgrades for my car. I don't necessarily mind unlocking those upgrades as I level the car, but I'd prefer to spend in-game currency. It's also weird that if you buy the same car twice, you'll have to manually level the second one to unlock the upgrades for it, even though you've already unlocked them for the first one. So I wish that if I got the same car, the same exact car, that it would also be leveled up at that point. I've already driven it once. I should be able to get the upgrades again. Okay, so I think that covers all that I have on Forza Motorsport. I'm trying to be specific, but also concise and quick. So if anybody has any questions or other thoughts, throw them in the comments. Again, this is almost entirely a single player review. The game is fine. I don't regret buying it. When I compare it to Forza 7, however, I think there aren't enough positives to really make it worth buying a whole new game yet. They are adding to it and they are making updates, so it might and probably will become more and more valuable as time goes on. It is fun, and if I were to do it over again, knowing what I know now, I think I'd just wait for a sale and then get it. But to compare it to other games that I've purchased new in recent history, Forza 8 is infinitely better than any Call of Duty Modern Warfare squared remake game on the planet. So with that, peace out. Thanks for watching. Happy driving.